Okay, it's been 4.5 hours, and last we left off, my dough looked like this in the bowl after we were done with the fourth stretch and fold. Now we're ready to ball up some pizza dough, some portions of pizza dough. And this is the most important part. This is going to set you up for success later when you go to actually shape some pizzas. Okay, so we don't need much equipment here. We've got our dough, which is doubled in size, a little bread flour, our scale, and a proofing box. If you don't have a proofing box, like for years, I used just a metal half sheet tray with like a plastic lid that just kind of snaps over it. Kind of looks like this. And you know, sheet tray lid, Costco for I think total, this is $5. A cheap solution, and you know, if you have parchment paper on there, that would work. Only problem is it's not as deep as this, so that's why I eventually switched. And then also the plastic does kind of preserve a little bit more of the humidity. You don't have to worry about the paper kind of softening up on you. So proofing box, I'll put I'll put a link in the description for these, because I think it just helps to have the right tools. All right, here we go. Just a little bit of bread flour on the surface. Spread it around. Just a light coating, because just like shaping an oval or a round or a sandwich bread, I don't want a ton of flour involved here. I want to be able to have some tackiness to my dough so I can stick it to itself. I took it out in one piece. This is our 725 gram batch of dough, because I'm going to make 4 portions to make 4 10-ounce pizzas, 10-ounce pizzas, and then we're going to have one like big guy to make a 16-inch, a large pizza. So I didn't rip it out, right? I maintained the shape. And this is kind of like one of those subtle things that makes a huge difference here. I want to really try and get each portion of dough in one piece. I don't want to make a whole bunch of adjustments and have a bunch of little pieces. Like say I weigh out 200 grams and then I got to add 40 more, but I only had 30, and then I need another 10, and then I put too much and I have subtracted. In that case, you would end up with all these little pieces of dough trying to, you know, hit the weight target of 240, and then you ball it, and eventually when you go to stretch that disc, there's going to be weird tight spots in the dough, and it's going to fight with you, and it's going to make it difficult to stretch a nice disc. So I'm trying to hit, you know, my portions kind of on the first shot. So what did I just do here? I opened this up into a length, which is going to help me be able to see what I'm doing. Air pocket here, and get rid of it, just so I have a better concept of how much dough I've got. So I'm trying to hit, you know, 240, 242, 243, something in that neighborhood. Way too big, 273. So I'm going to try and take off 30 grams here. 257, 240. So there's a guy. What about this? I'm going to put it on the tail end, and it's going to end up in my giant, large pizza. Because I'm cool with, you know, dealing with that in a bigger shape, you know, a larger quantity of dough versus in a smaller one. So here we go. I've got a little too much here. I'm still like 10 grams over. There's like 250, 235. Oh, I'll put just a little bit back. And if I put some back, I'm just going to stick it kind of to the edge. So here we go. Scraps go over there. Let's see if I can get this one more on target. Oh, I'm under. So 218. I'm going to add to it, and again, I'm sticking it just right to the side. So there we go. 238. That is good. And then I just need one more. 234. I'll just throw in another little chunk at the end. 240. Okay, and then what's this big guy left that I have here? This big mass of dough? 450, okay? So just like I was planning out in my initial math. Now we have these pieces of dough, and if you noticed, I've been kind of keeping them with that lightly floured side down, because this is an important part, the shaping and balling of the dough. So first thing, let's see, make sure you see me. I'm gonna take one and I'm gonna go, it's kind of a rectangular shape. I'm gonna go corners together, all 4 corners to the middle, and I'm going to kind of pinch it up into a bundle. And we've got a nice smooth side here. I'm going to give it kind of like a little rough shaping, and I'm looking to take the air out of this. Yes, I am. I want to take the air out. So I'm rolling and I'm using the edges of my hand to kind of smear the edges of the dough to the inside of the dough, and you'll see that it's kind of winding up, it's balling up. And I'm just going to bring it to a nice smooth surface. I don't want it tearing. Just like when we stretched and folded our dough, we were trying to take it to a point of tension without tearing it, because we want the dough to be pulling on itself. And as soon as you start tearing it, it's got weak spots and it's not going to be doing that. So the air, why am I taking the air out of it? Because when we go to make, so I'm bringing corners together, when we go to shape a disc of dough to make a pizza, if there are air pop bubbles in it, as you stretch it, those are going to be weak, thin spots in your pizza dough. So we don't want to have those. So you will hear, see if I can be quiet. Did you catch any of those? Could you hear those, microphone? We want to take the air out of the dough. So I'm just winding it up into a tight ball. I want to avoid having a hole in the middle, but I'm going to come back around and give these guys one more effort of balling them together. So this one's kind of a weird shape. I'm trying to, keep the sticky sides touching, like when I bring these corners together, and I want that smooth side to be more of my presentation side. And when you think about this, there is no real presentation side because it's pizza, right? It's got toppings on it. So the dough really doesn't have a presentation side. But this smooth side that I'm creating is eventually going to go face down on my work surface. So it's easy to slide the pizza that's shaped eventually on and off the paddle into the oven. Because if I end up putting the ugly side after I shape it down, it's going to stick. All right, so I've got this one, last one, corners, get all the sticky dough to the inside so it can stick to itself. Let's have the smooth, lightly floured dough on the surface. I haven't floured my hands. I haven't added any additional flour. Not to my work surface, not to the dough. What I put on the dough initially that's it. That's all we've used so far. And it doesn't take much time to ball these guys up. And here's our big guy. We've got some of this, the scraps that I was adding on this corner. And I'm just gonna it's the same thing. This guy's just bigger. Corners together. Trying to bring all the sticky dough to the middle. You hear it that time, right? All the air bubbles that I'm popping. And don't worry, there's gonna be plenty of air in our finished pizza because I'm really after a chewy, crisp crust. We're not making Neapolitan, giant puffy dough. We're not going for like a thin cracker crust dough or thin cracker crust pizza. I want pizza that has like a nice soft crust with some air in it, but is also nice and like crisp. So this is kind of like a middle ground kind of pizza. Okay, so they've all been kind of pre-shaped. And I'm going to come back around again, put a little bit more tension in them, and then they're each going to go in the box. Easy, right? So I think I started with this guy. And at this point, I am just going to add a little bit of flour, just so I'm not sticking. And what am I doing? I'm trying to bring tension into it, get it to stand up. And I want to not have a big hole in the bottom. Let's see, maybe the next one, I'll make more of what I don't want, and that'll fix it. Let's see. Actually, I'll do it. All right, so if you kind of ball it and you're making like kind of loose circles with your hands, like you're not really staying in one shape with your hands, you're gonna get kind of like this dimple, this hole in the middle. And I guess, let's see, now I'll tighten it up a little bit more. There's a little bit of downward pressure and definitely like a smearing effect with your hands. So now it's gone. Gets to go in the box. So here's a hole. So we loosely shaped this, right? Loosely balled it. And that's what happens, we get that. And if you were to just leave it at that and go into the box and then go try and make this into a pizza tomorrow or tonight or whenever, you're gonna have a thin spot right in the middle of your disc of dough. And that's no good because then you risk sticking it to your paddle when you're going to move it. And you kind of risk having just like a really weak bottom portion of dough, like after you cut it, just be like this floppy, flaccid, weak piece of pizza. So that's pretty closed up. And I just keep going back, just get like super light, super light. So a nice little ball. It's kind of hovering as if we were shaping like an oval or a round. You know, we want to see that tension in it. And this one's a little bit open, right? So give it like a couple more turns, maybe a little more pressure. I feel like I just heard another air bubble pop in there. Closed. And the big guy. And I don't recommend making a big guy. The big guy can be very challenging for somebody who's new to making pizza. The little 10-inch ones, very beginner friendly. So balled up, nice and tight, going in my dough box, lid on, and these guys are going in the fridge.